The steady beeping of monitors provided a familiar rhythm to Sophia Elizabeth Miller's morning rounds. Her steps, measured and confident in their quiet determination, carried her through the pediatric wing of Boston Children's Hospital. The early Idaiuem October sun filtered through large windows, casting warm patterns across the freshly waxed floors. But her mind was elsewhere, lost in the stack of patient files clutched against her pristine white coat. Dr. Miller, a gentle tug at her sleeve, pulled her attention downward. 5-year-old Danny, one of her regular patients, grinned up at her, his gap-toothed smile infectious despite the IV pole he pushed alongside him. "Mom says I can go home today." Sophia's green eyes sparkled as she crouched down to his level, her cascade of light brown waves falling forward. "That's wonderful news, buddy. Remember our deal about the inhaler?" 3 puffs, twice a day, even if I feel good," Danny recited proudly. "Perfect." She straightened up, unconsciously tucking and releasing a strand of hair, a habit that surfaced whenever her emotions ran deep. These were the moments that reminded her why she'd fought so hard to become a pediatrician, why all those nights studying by lamplight in her mother's small apartment had been worth it. The morning proceeded with its usual organized chaos until Amanda Torres burst into her office, bringing with her the whirlwind energy that had characterized their friendship since residency. "Sophia, mi amor, you need to see this new patient's file." Her honey-colored eyes danced with an intensity that made Sophia pause. "Amanda, I'm already running behind on—" "Trust me," Amanda interrupted, her dark waves bouncing as she shook her head. 5-year-old girl, severe asthma case, but it's the father. I think you might want to sit down for this one." Before Sophia could respond, the file was in her hands. Her eyes scanned the admission forms and the world tilted on its axis. Michael Andrew Johnson. The name hit her like a physical force, sending her mind spiraling back 12 years to summer nights, whispered promises and dreams that had crumbled like autumn leaves. "It can't be him," she whispered. But even as the words left her lips, she knew. The successful CEO, the single father, the man who had once known every secret, every fear that lived in her heart. Amanda perched on the edge of her desk, arms crossed. "When were you going to tell me about the smoking hot ex who apparently runs half of Boston's tech industry?" "He wasn't—" Sophia's voice trailed off. She stood abruptly, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from her navy dress. "It was a lifetime ago. We were different people." "Honey, a man doesn't look at patient intake forms the way he was looking at yours. He saw your name on the department board and nearly dropped his coffee." Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. "His daughter, Lucy, she's the priority. Whatever happened between us doesn't matter now." She reached for her stethoscope, an anchor to the present. "Sophia Elizabeth Miller," Amanda's voice softened. "You're doing that thing where you hide behind your doctor face, the same thing you did after Richard broke off the engagement last year." "This is different." But even as she protested, memories flooded back. Michael's intense gray-blue eyes, the way his laugh would start deep in his chest, how he'd believed in her dreams when everyone else had dismissed them as impossible for a girl from the wrong side of town. The intercom crackled. "Dr. Miller to pediatric room 305. Sophia drew a steadying breath. "That's them." "Want me to come with?" Amanda offered, her protective instinct showing. "No, I need to do this professionally." Sophia gathered her composure like armor. "I'm not that insecure 19-year-old anymore." The walk to room 305 felt endless. Each step carried the weight of years, of choices made and paths diverged. She could hear a child's laughter through the door, bright and clear despite the wheeze underlying it. When she pushed open the door, time seemed to stop. Michael stood, by the window, his tall frame silhouetted against the morning light. His dark hair had touches of gray at the temples now, and his perfectly tailored suit spoke of the success she'd always known he'd achieve. But it was his eyes that caught her. Still that same stormy blue-gray, now widening in recognition. "Dr. Miller," he said formally, but his voice carried echoes of summer nights and whispered dreams. On the bed sat a tiny fairy of a girl with blonde braids and her father's eyes, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. "Are you my new doctor?" Lucy asked, her voice slightly breathless but curious. Sophia felt her professional mask slip into place, a shield against the tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "Yes, I am, and you must be Lucy." She moved to the bed, purposely not looking at Michael. "I hear you're having trouble with your breathing?" As she began her examination, she was acutely aware of Michael's presence, of how he tensed each time Lucy coughed. The child's airways were significantly compromised. This wasn't a simple case. "Her usual medications aren't working anymore," Michael explained, his hand absently rubbing his neck, a gesture so familiar it made Sophia's chest ache. "The attacks are getting worse, especially at night." Sophia listened to Lucy's lungs, noting the concerning wheeze. The little girl remained remarkably brave throughout the examination, only squeezing her rabbit tighter during the more uncomfortable moments. "I like your shoes," Lucy commented, pointing to Sophia's modest heels. "They're pretty like Cinderella's." The comment, so innocently delivered, brought an unexpected lump to Sophia's throat. "If you only knew, sweet girl, how many times I felt like Cinderella running away." "Lucy needs to be admitted," Sophia announced, finally meeting Michael's gaze. "Her oxygen levels are too low, and I want to start her on a new treatment protocol immediately." Michael stepped closer, and the familiar scent of his cologne, the same after all these years, made her pulse jump. "Whatever she needs, I trust your judgment, Dr. Miller." The formality of the title stung, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "I'll have Amanda, Nurse Torres, begin the admission process. We'll need to run some additional tests." As she turned to leave, Michael's voice stopped her. "Sophia." Just her name, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. She paused at the door, not turning around. "Yes, Mr. Johnson?" "You did it. Everything you said you would. I always knew you would." The simple statement cracked something in her chest. Without responding, she left the room, her heels clicking rapidly against the floor as she sought the sanctuary of her office. Once inside, she pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the Boston skyline blur through unexpected tears. Amanda found her there minutes later. "Oh, Carita," she sighed, wrapping Sophia in one of her trademark hugs. "Want to tell me the real story now?" Sophia closed her eyes, finally letting herself remember the boy who had loved her before. Success, before status, before she'd built her wall so high. "He was my first love," she whispered, "and my first heartbreak." Outside her window, autumn leaves danced on the wind, red and gold against the crystal blue sky. Somewhere in the hospital, a little girl with her first love's eyes needed her help, and Sophia Elizabeth Miller, who had spent a lifetime proving herself, faced a new challenge, healing not just her patient, but perhaps the echoes of her own past as well. Michael Andrew Johnson stood at the window of his daughter's hospital room, watching the sunset paint the Boston skyline in shades of amber and gold. Lucy had finally drifted off to sleep, her breathing still labored but steadier than before. The stuffed rabbit, Mr. Whiskers, remained clutched tightly in her small hands even in sleep. His phone buzzed again, the fourth board member calling in the past hour. He silenced it without looking, his jaw tightening as he massaged the back of his neck. The company could wait. Tonight he wasn't CEO of Johnson Technologies, he was just a father watching his daughter fight for every breath. The soft click of the door opening made him turn. Instead of Dr. Miller, Sophia, it was Nurse Torres who entered, her movements quiet and efficient as she checked Lucy's vitals. "She's responding well to the new medication protocol," Amanda said softly, making notes on her tablet. Then, with a directness that caught him off guard, "You know, most CEOs would have pawned off the night watch to their nanny by now." "I'm not most CEOs." His response came out sharper than intended. Amanda's honey-colored eyes met his, unimpressed. "Clearly, you're also not the boy who broke my best friend's heart 12 years ago. At least I hope not." The accusation hung in the air between them. Michael turned back to the window, his reflection staring back at him. Perfectly pressed suit now wrinkled, 5 o'clock shadow darkening his jaw. You don't know what happened? I know enough. Amanda checked Lucy's IV line. I know Sophia spent years rebuilding herself after you left. And I know that little girl needs the best pediatric care in Boston, which happens to be Sophia. So, whatever history you two have, don't let it affect my patient's treatment. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed again. This time the name made him curse under his breath. Madison Reynolds' board chair. Take it, Amanda suggested, surprising him. I'll stay with Lucy. He nodded gratefully and stepped into the hallway, accepting the call. Madison, it's late. Michael, the board is concerned. The merger meeting with Silicon Valley investors is in 2 days and you've been MIA all day. He paced the quiet corridor, his Italian leather shoes silent on the polished floor. My daughter is in the hospital. The meeting will have to be rescheduled. This merger could double our market share. These investors flew in specifically to... My 5-year-old can't breathe properly. He cut in, his voice low but intense. I don't care if it triples our market share, family comes first. A heavy sigh crackled through the line. Michael, I understand your position as a single parent, but since Catherine's passing, don't. The word came out like ice. Don't bring her into this. An uncomfortable silence followed. Finally, Madison spoke again, her tone softer. Take care of Lucy. I'll handle the investors. But Michael, the board won't be patient forever. The call ended, leaving him alone with thoughts of Catherine, his college sweetheart, Lucy's mother, dead from a sudden aneurysm when their daughter was just 6 months old. He'd thrown himself into both parenthood and work then, believing he could control everything through sheer force of will. Now, watching his daughter struggle to breathe, that illusion of control felt like sand slipping through his fingers. He returned to the room to find Amanda still there, humming softly as she adjusted Lucy's blanket. The scene struck a chord in him. When was the last time someone had shown such simple kindness to his daughter? The night shift starts soon, Amanda said, checking her watch. But I've got paperwork to finish, so I'll stick around. You should get some rest yourself, Mr. CEO. There's a decent couch in the parents' lounge down the hall. He shook his head. I'll stay here. Suit yourself. She headed for the door, then paused. You know she was right about you. Who? Sophia. Years ago, when she finally told me about the boy who'd loved her before anyone else believed in her. She said you were stubborn as hell, but you'd move mountains for the people you cared about. Amanda's gaze shifted to Lucy. Guess some things don't change. After she left, Michael sank into the chair beside Lucy's bed, his daughter's small, hand finding his even in sleep. He thought of Sophia, not Dr. Miller with her professional mask and careful distance, but his Sophia from all those years ago. The girl who'd worked 3 jobs to help her mother make rent, but still found time to tutor struggling classmates. Who'd dreamed of becoming a doctor when everyone said it was impossible. The same determination he'd admired in her then shone, through even stronger now, refined by years of success and hard work. Watching her with Lucy earlier, he'd seen not just competence but genuine compassion. His daughter, usually shy with strangers, had warmed to her immediately. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Speaking of the devil, Sophia stood in the doorway, her white coat exchanged for a classic black blazer over tailored pants. She'd let her hair down, the warm brown waves framing her face, and for a moment, he saw echoes of the girl who used to meet him by the old oak tree behind the community college. I'm doing final rounds before heading out, she said quietly, moving to check Lucy's monitors. Her numbers are improving. Thank you. He meant it for more than just the medical care. She nodded, maintaining her professional distance. The night team has my cell number if anything changes. I've prescribed Sophia. He didn't mean to say her name like that. Soft, familiar. She stilled, her hand resting on Lucy's chart. This isn't the time or place, Michael. I know, He struggled to find the right words. When I saw your name on the department board, I almost couldn't believe it. You're exactly where you always said you'd be. A complex emotion flickered across her face. And you're exactly where everyone expected you to be. Successful, powerful. Her eyes fell on Lucy. A father. The unspoken questions hung between them. What happened to us? Why did you leave? Did you ever regret it? Instead of asking them, Sophia straightened, slipping back behind her professional facade. Lucy's next assessment is scheduled for 8 a.m. Try to get some rest, Mr. Johnson. Tomorrow will be a long day. He watched her leave, her quiet confidence a far cry from the passionate but uncertain girl he'd known. Back then, they'd both been so young, so sure they could conquer the world together. Now here they were, successful in their separate lives, brought together again by fate and his daughter's failing lungs. Lucy stirred in her sleep, coughing slightly. Michael leaned forward, stroking her fine blonde hair until she settled. Outside, the window. The city lights twinkled like stars, reminding him of another night 12 years ago when he'd made a choice that altered both their lives forever. His phone buzzed again, more emails about the merger, about quarterly projections, about the empire he'd built. He turned it face down on the side table. In the soft beeping of hospital monitors, watching his daughter's chest rise and fall, Michael Andrew Johnson realized that all his success, all his carefully constructed control, meant nothing if he couldn't protect what mattered most. And somehow, inexplicably, the person best equipped to help him do that was the woman whose heart he'd broken all those years ago. Sophia's apartment in Back Bay felt especially empty that night. She stood at her kitchen island, staring at a cup of chamomile tea gone cold, her mind refusing to settle. The clock on her wolf range read 11:42 p.m., but sleep felt impossible. "You're being ridiculous," she muttered to herself, unconsciously reaching up to tug at her hair. The gesture caught her attention in the reflection of her window, and she forced her hand down. Some habits were harder to break than others. Her phone lit up with Amanda's incoming FaceTime call. Sophia accepted, and her best friend's face filled the screen, dark curls piled messily on top of her head. "Okay, spill," Amanda demanded without preamble. "I just finished my shift, and that man hasn't left Lucy's bedside once. Not even for the merger crisis his assistant kept calling about." Sophia moved to her living room, sinking into her cream-colored sofa. He was always dedicated to what he cared about. "Mira, you can't deflect with me. Not after I watched you two dance around each other all day like some Tennessee Williams drama." "Nothing's happening, Amanda. He's my patient's father. Who happens to be the love of your life from 12 years ago." Sophia's breath caught. "He wasn't. Please." Amanda's eye roll was legendary. "I've known you 7 years, through your entire residency, and that disaster with Richard. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at Michael today when you thought no one was watching." The mention of Richard sent an uncomfortable twinge through Sophia's chest. Her ex-fiancé had ended their engagement last year, claiming she was too focused on her career and emotionally unavailable. The expensive engagement ring had been returned, but the scars to her confidence remained. "It's ancient history," Sophia insisted, but even she could hear the uncertainty in her voice. "We were different people then. Young, naive. Young, maybe, but naive. That boy knew exactly what he had in you." Amanda's voice softened. "You never did tell me why it ended." Sophia stood, moving to her wall of windows overlooking the city. Lights. The view had been one of her first splurges after making attending physician, a daily reminder of how far she'd come from the tiny apartment where she'd grown up. "His father died," she finally said. "The family company was struggling. Michael had to take over or they'd lose everything. She swallowed hard. "He said he had to focus on saving his family's legacy, that he couldn't ask me to put my dreams on hold while he rebuilt the business. So he made the choice for you? He thought he was doing the right thing." Sophia pressed her forehead against the cool glass. "Maybe he was. Look at us now. He's a successful CEO, and I'm exactly where I wanted to be." "Honey," Amanda's voice was gentle, "being successful and being happy aren't mutually exclusive. When was the last time you let yourself want something just for you? Before Sophia could answer, her phone buzzed with a text. Her heart jumped. When she saw the sender, Michael Johnson. He just texted me, she breathed. What? Read it. Lucy's oxygen levels dropped slightly. Night team says it's minor, but I wanted you to know. Sorry to bother you so late. A second message followed. She asked about you at bedtime, called you the princess doctor because of your shoes. It's about Lucy, Sophia said, but her hands were shaking slightly as she typed a response. Thank you for letting me know. The fluctuation is normal with the new medication. Try to get some rest. Tomorrow's tests are important. She hesitated, then added, Tell her the princess doctor says sweet dreams. Very professional, Amanda teased. Now tell me what you really want to say to him. Sophia sank back onto her sofa. What I want doesn't matter. His daughter needs a doctor, not whatever we were. Were? Mi amor, I saw how he looks at you. That man isn't thinking about what you were, he's seeing who you are. A memory surfaced. Michael at 19, passionate and determined, telling her she could change the world if she wanted to. He'd believed in her when she barely believed in herself. Her phone buzzed again. She smiled in her sleep when I told her. You always did have a way with making people believe in magic. Sophia stared at the message, her throat tight. He remembered. After all these years, he remembered how she used to tell stories to his little cousins, turning their ordinary world into something magnificent. Oh, Carita, Amanda's voice was soft. Those walls you built, they're starting to crack. They can't. Sophia stood abruptly, pacing her pristine living room. I have rounds at 7, 3 new patient consultations, and Lucy's full workup to oversee. I can't let personal feelings compromise my judgment. You know what your problem is? You've gotten so good at being Dr. Miller that you've forgotten how to just be Sophia. Amanda leaned closer to the camera. The girl who dreamed big dreams. The one who wasn't afraid to love with her whole heart. That girl got her heart broken. That girl survived, she thrived, and now life is giving her a second chance, not just with Michael, but with a little girl who needs more than just a doctor. As if on cue, Sophia's phone lit up once more. Lucy made me promise to tell you that Mr. Whiskers says thank you for making her feel better. Apparently, he's very particular about his medical care. Despite herself, Sophia smiled. She could picture Michael sitting beside Lucy's hospital bed, relaying messages from a stuffed rabbit just to make his daughter happy. It was such a far cry from the powerful CEO image he presented to the world. There it is, Amanda said softly. That smile. When was the last time anyone made you smile like that? Sophia touched her lips, surprised to find them curved upward. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow I need to be Dr. Miller, professional, focused. You can be both, you know. Dr. Miller and Sophia, the princess doctor and the girl who never stopped believing in magic. Amanda yawned. But right now we both need sleep. Just promise me something? What? Don't hide behind your white coat because you're scared of what might happen if you don't. After they hung up, Sophia stood at her windows again, watching. The city lights shimmer like stars. Her phone felt heavy in her hand, Michael's messages glowing on the screen. Sleep well, Mr. Whiskers, she finally typed back. And you too, Mr. Johnson. His response came quickly. Good night, Dr. Miller. Thank you for being here. 4 simple words, but they carried the weight of years, of choices made, and paths not taken. Sophia Elizabeth Miller, who had spent so long building walls of glass, transparent enough to let her see out but strong enough to keep everyone else at a safe distance, felt the first hairline crack appear in her carefully constructed defenses. Tomorrow would bring rounds and tests, professional distances and careful boundaries. But tonight, in the quiet of her apartment, she allowed herself to remember what it felt like to be the girl who believed in magic and the boy who had made her feel like anything was possible. Michael's world narrowed to the sound of his daughter's desperate gasps for air. The morning had started normally enough. Lucy's regular tests, a few work calls he'd taken in the hallway, even a shy smile from her when Dr. Miller came for rounds. Then, without warning, everything had changed. Blood oxygen dropping to 85, a nurse called out, her voice sharp with urgency, heart rate increasing. Sophia, Dr. Miller, moved with practiced efficiency, her professional mask firmly in place. But Michael caught the flicker of concern in her green eyes as she assessed Lucy's deteriorating condition. "Push 0.3 milligrams of epinephrine," she ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Start high-flow oxygen, and get respiratory therapy in here now." Michael stood pressed against the wall, his hands clenched into fists as he watched the medical team work. Lucy's small face was pale beneath the oxygen mask, her blue eyes wide with fear as she clutched Mr. Whiskers. Each labored breath felt like a knife in his chest. "Daddy," she wheezed, reaching for him. "I'm here, Princess." He moved to her side, taking her free hand. "Dr. Miller is going to help you feel better." Sophia worked methodically, checking monitors and adjusting medications. "Lucy, sweetie, I need you to try something for me. Can you pretend you're blowing out birthday candles? Nice and slow." Lucy attempted to follow the instructions, but another coughing spasm hit her. The monitors screamed in protest. O2 sat dropping to 82, Amanda announced, having appeared sometime during the crisis. She moved with the same efficiency as Sophia, their teamwork seamless after years of working. "Together, we need to intubate," Sophia said, her voice low enough that only the medical team and Michael could hear. The word hit him like a physical blow. "No," he protested. "There has to be another way." Sophia met his eyes, and for a moment, her professional mask slipped. He saw not just the doctor, but the woman who understood exactly what he was feeling. "Michael, trust me, please." Those 3 words, spoken with such quiet intensity, broke through his panic. He nodded once, then leaned down to Lucy's eye level. "Princess, these doctors are going to help you sleep for a little while so your lungs can get stronger like Sleeping Beauty, remember?" Lucy's grip on his hand tightened. "Promise you'll stay?" "I'm not going anywhere." He pressed a kiss to her forehead, then stepped back to let the team work. The next few minutes were a blur of medical terminology and precise movements. Michael watched as they sedated his daughter, as Sophia's steady hands performed the intubation, with practiced skill. Each beep of the monitors marked another second of this nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Finally, Lucy was stabilized, the ventilator breathing for her in steady mechanical rhythm. The crisis team dispersed, leaving only Sophia and Amanda in the room with them. "The intubation was successful," Sophia said, her professional tone gentled by compassion. "We'll keep her sedated while we get her inflammation under control. Michael, I need to be honest with you. This level of acute exacerbation is serious." He ran a hand through his hair, not caring that the careful styling was ruined. "What aren't you saying?" "Her condition is more severe than initial tests indicated. We need to run a new series of specialized—" His phone's harsh ring cut. Through the tension, the caller ID showed his board chairman's number for the 5th time that hour. "Take it," Amanda said firmly. "I'll stay with her." Michael stepped into the hallway, his movements stiff with suppressed emotion. "John, now isn't— The merger is falling apart." His chairman's voice crackled with barely contained fury. "Our investors are walking because you've been unreachable for 2 days. Millions in market value gone because you couldn't be bothered to attend one damn meeting. My daughter is on a ventilator." Michael bit out. "The company will survive without me for a few days." "Will it? Because our stock is already down 12% since news broke about your absence. The board is meeting in an hour to discuss a vote of no confidence." Michael's grip on his phone tightened until his knuckles turned white. "You want to replace me? Fine. Do it. I built this company from nothing once before. I can do it again. But I will not leave my daughter." He ended the call and slumped against the wall, the weight of everything finally crushing down on him. That's how Sophia found him minutes later when she stepped out to check on him. "Michael?" Her voice was soft, concerned. He looked up, and something in his expression made her take a step closer. I can't lose her, he whispered. I can't lose another. His voice broke. Sophia moved without thinking, closing the distance between them. Her hand found his arm, offering silent support. Lucy is a fighter, and she has the best medical team in Boston working for her. I should have brought her in sooner. I saw the signs, but I was so caught up in work and proving I could handle everything. Stop. The firmness in her voice made him meet her eyes. You got her here. You're here now. That's what matters. A bitter laugh escaped him. The board doesn't think so. They're voting to remove me as CEO because I won't leave her side for their precious merger. Something flashed in Sophia's eyes. Recognition, perhaps, of how history had a way of repeating itself. 12 years ago, he'd chosen the company over love. Now faced with the same choice between business and what mattered most, he was choosing differently. You're not alone this time, she said quietly. Then, seeming to realize how personal the moment had become, she stepped back, straightening her white coat. I mean, Lucy has a whole team supporting her recovery. But the words hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Michael remembered another time she'd told him he wasn't alone. The night his father died, when she'd held him as he cried and promised they'd figure everything out together. He'd repaid that promise by pushing her away, convinced he was protecting her from his family's collapse. Now here she was again, offering support even through her professional distance. The irony wasn't lost on him. Dr. Miller? Amanda's voice from the doorway broke the moment. Lucy's latest blood work is back. Sophia nodded, already moving back into doctor mode. But at the door she paused, glancing back at him. For what it's worth, you're making the right choice this time. She disappeared into Lucy's room, leaving Michael in the hallway with the ghost of her touch on his arm and the weight of her words in his heart. Through the room's window, he could see Amanda checking Lucy's vitals while Sophia studied the test results, both of them focused on saving his daughter. His phone buzzed again. More messages about the board meeting, about stock prices and investor confidence. He silenced it without looking. Let them take the company. Let them take everything. Some prices were too high to pay twice. Inside the room, Lucy slept on, her small chest rising and falling in time with the ventilator's rhythm. Mr. Whiskers remained clutched in her hand, a silent guardian against the storms that raged around her. And Michael Andrew Johnson, who had once sacrificed love for legacy, found himself facing the same choice with very different priorities. This time, he wasn't letting go of what mattered most. The hospital cafeteria at 3 a.m. was a liminal space, where time seemed to stop. Sophia sat alone at a corner table, her third coffee growing cold beside a stack of medical journals. She'd been reviewing every recent study on pediatric asthma complications, searching for anything that might help Lucy. You look like hell, Carita. Amanda's voice broke through her concentration as her friend set down a fresh coffee and slid into the seat across from her. Sophia managed a weak smile. Thanks for the compliment. When was the last time you went home? I caught a few hours in the on-call room yesterday. Sophia pushed aside a journal on inflammatory responses. Lucy's latest numbers are stable, Amanda cut in. The respiratory team says she's responding well to the new treatment protocol. You've done everything right. Sophia's hands wrapped around the warm coffee cup. Then why do I feel like I'm missing something? Because you're too close to this case. Amanda's honey-colored eyes were knowing. And we both know it's not just about the medicine. Before Sophia could respond, movement at the cafeteria entrance caught her attention. Michael stood there, looking lost in a way that powerful CEOs never should. His suit was wrinkled, his tie long discarded, and the shadows under his eyes rivaled her own. Amanda followed her gaze and stood. I'll give you 2 minutes, but Sophia, remember what I said about not hiding. As Amanda left, Michael approached hesitantly. Mind if I join you? Sophia gestured to the empty chair, watching as he sank into it with exhaustion written in every line of his body. How's Lucy? Sleeping. Your resident Dr. Chen is with her. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. The board meeting ended an hour ago. Something in his tone made her stomach clench. Michael, they voted me out. His laugh was hollow, effective immediately. Apparently, choosing to stay with my critically ill daughter instead of attending merger meetings shows poor business, acumen, and questionable leadership. The words hit too close to home. Memories surfaced of another time he'd faced losing everything. The night he'd told her they needed to end things, that he couldn't ask her to wait while he rebuilt his family's company. I'm sorry, she said softly. Don't be. He met her eyes, across the table. For the first time in 12 years, I know I made the right choice. The intensity of his gaze made her look away. She focused on her coffee cup, on the steam rising in delicate spirals. Lucy's latest test results show improvement in her inflammatory markers. If this trend continues, we might be able to start weaning her off the ventilator in the next 48 hours. Sophia. The way he said her name, soft, almost pleading, made her chest tight. Can we stop pretending? Pretending what? That we're just doctor and patient's father. That seeing you again hasn't turned my whole world upside down. That every time you walk into Lucy's room, I don't see glimpses of the future I gave up 12 years ago. Michael, don't. She stood abruptly, needing distance. We can't do this. He rose too, his height forcing her to look up at him. Why not? Because I'm Lucy's doctor. Because you're going through a crisis. Because... She stopped, forcing her professional mask back into place. Because the past needs to stay in the past. Does it? He stepped closer, and suddenly she was 19 again, falling in love with a boy who believed they could conquer the world together. Tell me you don't feel this too. Tell me you don't lie awake at night wondering what if. What I feel doesn't matter. Her voice shook slightly. Lucy's care has to come first. I won't compromise that. I would never ask you to. The sincerity in his voice was worse than any argument. But Lucy adores you. Not just as her doctor, she lights up every time you walk in the room. She asked me to tell her stories about the princess doctor when she can't sleep. Tears threatened, and Sophia blinked them back furiously. That's exactly why we need boundaries. She's vulnerable, attached. I won't risk hurting her. Like I hurt you. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with 12 years of unspoken pain. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself, a defensive gesture she thought she'd outgrown. You did what you had to do, she finally said. The company needed you. I was wrong. His voice was raw with conviction. I thought I was protecting you, giving you the freedom to follow your dreams without being tied to my family's mess. But I was a coward, Sophia. I was scared of failing, of dragging you down with me. So I pushed you away before you could choose to leave. A single tear escaped despite her best efforts. And now? What are you scared of now? Losing Lucy. His voice cracked. Failing her like I failed you. Every time she struggles to breathe, He broke off, emotion overwhelming him. Without thinking, Sophia reached for his hand. His fingers interlaced with hers instantly, the familiar touch sending electricity through her veins. Listen to me, she said firmly. You are not failing, Lucy. You chose her over everything else. That's not failure. That's being a father. He looked down at their joined hands, his thumb tracing patterns on her skin. I keep thinking about what Catherine would say if she could see me now. Unemployed, terrified, holding on to our daughter's doctor like a lifeline. She'd be proud of you for putting Lucy first. Sophia's voice was gentle. And she'd want you to forgive yourself. The mention of Catherine should have made her pull away. Instead, she found herself holding on tighter, offering whatever comfort she could to this man who had once been her whole world. A noise at the cafeteria entrance startled them apart. Amanda stood there, her expression urgent. Sophia, Lucy's awake. She's fighting the ventilator. They moved as one, rushing toward the pediatric wing. In the elevator, Michael's hand found hers again, squeezing once before letting go. It felt like permission, like forgiveness, like a promise neither of them was ready to voice. The doors opened and Dr. Miller took over, pushing Sophia's emotions aside. But as she hurried toward Lucy's room, she could still feel the ghost of Michael's touch on her skin. A reminder that some walls, no matter how carefully built, were meant to crumble. Lucy's small body jerked against the ventilator tube, her eyes wide with panic as she fought against the machine breathing for her. Sophia swept into the room with practiced urgency, Michael close behind. "Lucy, sweetheart, I need you to stay." "Calm," Sophia said, her voice steady as she assessed the situation. "Your breathing tube is helping you. Try to relax." Tears streamed down Lucy's face as she tried to reach for the tube. Michael caught her hands gently. "Princess, listen to Dr. Miller. She's going to help you." "Pulse ox maintaining at 94, Amanda reported, watching the monitors. "BP slightly elevated." Sophia made a quick decision. "Lucy's fighting the vent because she's ready to breathe on her own. Let's begin extubation protocol." She turned to Michael. "This is good news, but the process can be scary. She'll need you to keep her calm." He nodded, never taking his eyes off his daughter. "Hear that, Princess? You're getting stronger." The next 20 minutes were a careful dance of medical precision. Sophia worked methodically, explaining each step to Lucy in soothing tones while Michael held her hand and Amanda assisted. When the tube finally came out, Lucy's first independent breath was followed by a harsh cough. "That's normal," Sophia assured Michael before he could panic. "Lucy, can you tell me how many fingers I'm holding up?" "3, Lucy whispered hoarsely, then immediately reached for Mr. Whiskers, whom Michael handed over. "Perfect." Sophia smiled, checking vitals. "Your throat might feel sore for a little while, but we'll get you some ice chips for that. You're being so brave." Lucy's blue eyes, so like her father's, fixed on Sophia. Can you tell me a story?" The request, scratchy but clear, made something in Sophia's chest tighten. She glanced at Michael, who gave a slight nod. "One quick story," she agreed, pulling up a chair. "Have you ever heard about the brave princess who helped heal the kingdom?" As Lucy shook her head, Sophia wove a tale about a princess who discovered she had magic healing powers in her hands. Every time she helped someone, a golden light would glow, making the person feel better. But the princess kept her magic a secret, afraid people would only want her for her powers. Then one day, Sophia continued, watching Lucy's eyes grow heavy, she met a little girl who was stronger and braver than anyone she'd ever known. And the princess realized something very important. "What?" Lucy murmured sleepily. "That sometimes the people we help end up healing us too." By the time the story ended, Lucy had drifted off to sleep, her breathing steady and unlabored for the first time in days. Amanda, who had lingered to monitor vitals, gave Sophia a knowing look before quietly leaving the room. "The healing princess, huh?" Michael's voice was soft beside her. Sophia stood, straightening her white coat. It was the first thing that came to mind. "You always did tell the best stories." He moved closer, his voice dropping. "I remember the ones you used to tell my cousins at family barbecues. How you'd make up these incredible tales about ordinary things, like the time you convinced Tommy that his mom's garden gnome was actually a tiny wizard in disguise." The memory hit her with unexpected force. Those summer evenings at his family's house, feeling like she belonged somewhere for the first time in her life. His mother teaching her to make proper iced tea. His aunt slipping her leftover containers. "For your mama, dear." "Michael," she warned, but her voice lacked conviction. "I know." He ran a hand through his hair. "Professional boundaries. But seeing you with Lucy, hearing you tell stories again, it reminds me of everything I walked away from." Before she could respond, a knock at the door made them both turn. A tall man in an expensive suit stood there, his expression grave. "Mr. Johnson, I'm Gerald Walsh from the board. We need to discuss the transition of leadership." Michael's posture stiffened. "I told you I'm not leaving the hospital. The shareholders are demanding answers. Our stock has dropped 18%. We need you to make a public statement about your temporary leave of absence." Temporary? Michael's laugh was bitter. You voted me out. The board is willing to reconsider, given your history with the company. A 6-month sabbatical, perhaps. Time to get your personal affairs in order. The implication that Lucy was a problem to be managed rather than a child fighting for her life made Sophia's blood boil. Before she could stop herself, she stepped forward. Mr. Walsh, I need to ask you to leave. This is a pediatric ICU, not a corporate boardroom. My patient needs rest and minimal stress factors in her environment. Walsh turned to her, clearly unused to being challenged. And you are? Dr. Miller, Lucy's attending physician, and right now you're interfering with her recovery. Doctor, with all due respect, this is a private business matter. No, Michael cut in, his voice hard. This is about my daughter, and Dr. Miller is right. Get out. After Walsh left, silence fell in the room, broken only by the steady beep of Lucy's monitors. Sophia busied herself checking IV lines, trying to regain her professional distance. Thank you, Michael said quietly. For everything. The story. Standing up to Walsh. Being here. She turned to face him, struck by the vulnerability in his expression. Lucy's case is complex. She needs stability and support right now, not corporate politics. It's more than that. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes. You're different from how I remembered, but exactly the same too. Still fighting for what's right. Still making people believe in magic. Michael, please. She meant it to sound firm, but it came out more like a plea. We can't what? Care? Feel? Remember. His voice dropped lower. Because I remember everything, Sophia. The way you'd scrunch your nose when you studied. How you'd dance in the kitchen while making coffee. The sound of your laugh when I'd surprise you with lunch at the diner where you worked. Each memory was like a blow to the walls she'd built around her heart. That was a lifetime ago. Maybe. Or maybe it was just practice for now. For who we needed to become before we could find our way back. Lucy stirred in her sleep, drawing their attention. She looked so small in the hospital bed, but her breathing was strong and steady. She'll need follow-up care, Sophia said, clinging to professionalism like a lifeline. Regular appointments, medication adjustments, lifestyle changes. I know. Michael's eyes never left her face. I'm not going anywhere, not this time. The promise in his words made her breath catch. 12 years ago, he'd walked away to save his family's company. Now he was walking away from that same company to save something more precious. I should go, she said softly. I have other patients. Sophia. He caught her hand as she turned, to leave. Thank you for teaching my daughter to believe in magic again. And maybe for reminding me too. She squeezed his hand once before letting go, unable to form words around the emotion in her throat. At the door, she paused, looking back at father and daughter, Michael settling into the chair beside Lucy's bed, his fingers gentle as he fixed her blanket. In the quiet of the pediatric ICU, surrounded by machines and monitors, Sophia Elizabeth Miller felt the careful walls around her heart develop another crack. Because maybe some stories weren't finished after all. Maybe some magic waited 12 years to come true. Sunday mornings in the pediatric ward were usually quiet, but today the halls echoed with Lucy's giggles. 4 days after extubation, she was finally strong enough to take short walks, and she'd turned her mandatory exercise into a game. Look, Daddy, I'm getting faster. She took a few careful steps, her hospital gown decorated with butterflies, swishing around her legs. Mr. Whiskers dangled from one hand while the other gripped her IV pole like a racing cart. Whoa there, speed racer, Michael called, staying close behind her. Remember what Dr. Miller said about taking it slow. Amanda, monitoring the impromptu parade from the nurse's station, caught Sophia's eye as she approached. Someone's feeling better. Sophia watched Lucy navigate the hallway, her steps wobbly but determined. The little girl's blonde braids bounced with each movement, and her cheeks had regained their healthy color. Her latest lung function tests are encouraging, If she maintains this improvement, we might be looking at discharge in a few days. And then what? Amanda's knowing look made Sophia shift uncomfortably. Before she could respond, Lucy spotted her. "Princess Doctor, watch how strong I am now." Sophia approached with a warm smile, automatically steadying the IV pole when Lucy took a particularly enthusiastic step. "Very impressive, but let's check those lungs after all this exercise, okay?" They helped Lucy back to her room where she settled on the bed with minimal complaint, a sure sign she was still building her strength. As Sophia listened to her breathing, she noticed Michael watching them with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "How's our patient doing?" he asked, his voice carrying that mix of father's concern and something deeper that she wasn't ready to name. "Lung sounds are clear." Sophia kept her tone professional. "Lucy, can you take a deep breath for me? Like you're smelling flowers." Lucy complied, then asked, "Can I have a real flower? A yellow one like in your story about the healing princess?" "Hospital policy on fresh flowers is pretty strict," Sophia started, but Michael interrupted. "What if we drew some instead?" He pulled a small sketch pad from Lucy's bedside table. "Dr. Miller can tell us exactly what kind of flower the Princess O had, and we can make it perfect." The suggestion sparked something in Lucy's eyes. "Will you help us draw, Princess Doctor, please?" Sophia meant to say no. She had rounds to complete, charts to update, professional boundaries to maintain. Instead, she found herself perched on the edge of Lucy's bed, watching as small fingers gripped a crayon with fierce concentration. The princess's flower was special, she found herself saying, falling into storyteller mode despite her best intentions. It was a daffodil that bloomed in winter, proving that sometimes the most magical things happen when you least expect them. Michael's hand stilled over his own drawing. Like finding something precious that you thought you'd lost forever? Their eyes met over Lucy's head, and for a moment, the years between them seemed to dissolve. Sophia remembered another Sunday morning, 12 years ago when they'd sat in his mother's garden planning a future that had never come to be. Lucy's voice broke the spell. "Daddy, you're not drawing. You promised to help make it perfect." "Sorry, Princess." Michael returned his attention to the paper, but Sophia didn't miss the way his fingers trembled slightly. Amanda appeared in the doorway, a knowing smile playing at her lips. "Dr. Miller, the Reynolds family is here for their consultation." Reality crashed back. Sophia stood quickly, straightening her coat. "Keep working on those flowers. I'll check on you later, Lucy." In the hallway, Amanda fell into step beside her. "You know, for someone maintaining professional boundaries, you spend an awful lot of time looking at him like he hung the moon." "I'm monitoring my patient's family support system," Sophia protested weakly. "Mira, you're telling fairy tales and drawing flowers. That's not monitoring. That's nesting." Sophia stopped walking, turning to face her friend. "What am I supposed to do, Amanda? Every time I'm near them, I feel myself slipping. Lucy looks at me like I'm actually magical. And Michael?" She trailed off, unable to voice the way her heart raced whenever their eyes met. "Maybe that's not such a bad thing." Amanda's voice softened. "Lucy's getting better. Soon she won't be your patient anymore." "And then what?" "Michael just lost his company. He needs to focus on rebuilding his life, not—" She gestured vaguely. "Not falling in love with you again?" Amanda raised an eyebrow. "Honey, I think that ship has sailed. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Before Sophia could answer, her phone buzzed. A text from the chief of pediatrics. "Need to discuss Lucy Johnson's case. My office, 2 p.m. Dread pooled in her stomach. She showed the message to Amanda, whose expression turned serious. "You haven't done anything wrong," Amanda assured her. "Your treatment plan is solid. Lucy's improving. But people talk, and the way you look at each other, it's not exactly subtle." Sophia pressed her fingers to her temples. "I should have requested a transfer to another doctor as soon as I recognized him." "Why didn't you?" The question hung in the air between them. Sophia thought of Lucy's brave smile during procedures, of Michael's unwavering presence, of the way they'd become a unit she looked forward to seeing each day. "Because I couldn't walk away," she finally admitted. "Not from Lucy's case, and not—" She swallowed hard. "Not from them." Amanda squeezed her arm. "Then maybe it's time to stop pretending you want to." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of patience and paperwork. At 1:55, Sophia stood outside the chief's office, her heart pounding. Through the window, she could see Dr. Patricia Chen, the hospital's ethics committee head, already seated inside. Her phone buzzed with a new message. "Michael, Lucy wanted you to see the finished flower. She says it's magical, like you." Attached was a photo of a slightly lopsided daffodil, colored with the careful determination only a child could muster. In the corner, in Michael's neat handwriting, "Some magic is worth waiting for." Sophia stared at the message until her vision blurred. 12 years ago, she'd lost everything because duty and responsibility had torn them apart. Now, those same forces were threatening to separate them again. But this time, she wasn't a powerless 19-year-old. This time, she was Dr. Sophia, Elizabeth Miller, who had fought her way through med school, through residency, through every obstacle life had thrown at her. This time, she knew exactly what she was fighting for. Taking a deep breath, she knocked on the chief's door, ready to defend not just her medical decisions but the pieces of her heart she'd finally allowed herself to reclaim. Because some things, like daffodils in winter and second chances at above, were worth fighting for. "Dr. Miller, please take a seat." Chief of Pediatrics Dr. Howard Matthews gestured to the chair beside Dr. Chen. His expression was carefully neutral, but Sophia had been in medicine long enough to recognize the gravity in his tone. She sat, spine straight, hands folded in her lap to hide their trembling. "I assume this is about Lucy Johnson's case." Among other things, Dr. Chen opened a file. "Your treatment protocol for Lucy has been exemplary. Her recovery is progressing well above expectations. However, concerns have been raised about your personal involvement with the patient's family." Sophia met their gazes steadily. "I maintain strict professional boundaries with all my patients, including spending off-duty hours in the patient's room." Dr. Chen's tone was probing. "Drawing pictures? Telling stories?" "Lucy is 5 years old," Sophia countered. "Building trust and rapport with pediatric patients often requires a gentler approach. Every action I've taken has been in service of her medical care." Dr. Matthews leaned forward. "Sophia, you're one of our best pediatricians. Your dedication to your patients is unquestionable, but there are rumors circulating about your history with Michael Johnson." The use of her first name made her stomach clench. "Any prior acquaintance with Mr. Johnson has no bearing on my ability to treat his daughter." "The ethics committee disagrees." Dr. Chen's voice was firm. "We've reviewed the situation and believe it presents a potential conflict of interest. We're recommending Lucy's case be transferred to Dr. Roberts." The words hit like a physical blow. With all due respect, transferring Lucy to a new doctor at this stage of her recovery could be detrimental to her progress. She's just been through a major trauma. She needs stability and familiar faces. "She needs objective medical care," Dr. Chen corrected. "Care that isn't compromised by emotional attachments." Sophia felt her professional mask starting to crack. "My feelings, whatever they may be, have never compromised my medical judgment. Every decision I've made has been based on sound clinical evidence." "Perhaps?" Dr. Matthews' tone softened. "But can you honestly say you've maintained appropriate distance? That your past with Mr. Johnson hasn't influenced your involvement with this case?" Before she could respond, a knock at the door interrupted them. Amanda stood in the doorway, slightly breathless. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need Dr. Miller immediately. Lucy Johnson's having an acute asthma attack." Sophia was on her feet instantly, but Dr. Chen's voice stopped her. "Dr. Roberts is on call. He can—" "Lucy's asking for Dr. Miller," Amanda cut in, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Her anxiety is making the attack worse. We need someone she trusts." Without waiting for permission, Sophia moved. The hallway passed in a blur as she ran toward Lucy's room, Amanda keeping pace beside her. "O2 stats?" she demanded, dropping to 89. Michael's with her, trying to keep her calm, but they rounded the corner to find Lucy's room in controlled chaos. The little girl sat upright in bed, chest heaving as she struggled for air. Michael held her hand, his face ashen. "Lucy, sweetheart, I'm here." Sophia moved to the bed, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Remember our special breathing? Like smelling flowers?" Lucy's terrified eyes fixed on her. "Can't. Hurts." "I know, baby. But you're so strong." Sophia began her assessment, calling out orders for medication adjustments. To Michael, she added, "Tell her about the daffodil, the one you drew together." Understanding flickered in his eyes. As he began describing their artwork in soothing tones, Sophia worked with practiced efficiency. Gradually, with medication and focused breathing exercises, Lucy's airways began to relax. "That's my brave girl," Sophia murmured, as Lucy's oxygen levels stabilized. "Keep breathing nice and slow." It took another 20 minutes before the crisis fully passed. Lucy lay back against her pillows, exhausted but breathing steadily. Mr. Whiskers clutched to her chest. "Stay," she whispered, her small hand reaching for Sophia's. "Of course, princess." The endearment slipped out naturally as Sophia perched on the edge of the bed. Only then did she notice Dr. Matthews and Dr. Chen standing in the doorway, watching the scene unfold. Michael noticed them too. His posture stiffened as he recognized the administrative badges. "Is there a problem?" Dr. Matthews stepped forward. "Mr. Johnson, I'm the chief of pediatrics. We need to discuss transferring Lucy's care to another physician." "Absolutely not." Michael's voice was quiet but firm. "Dr. Miller saved my daughter's life, twice. She's the only doctor Lucy trusts." "Mr. Johnson, there are concerns about Dr. Miller's objectivity given your prior relationship." Lucy's grip on Sophia's hand tightened. "Don't want another doctor. Want Princess Doctor." The naked fear in her voice made Sophia's decision crystallize. She stood facing her superiors with the same determination that had carried her through every obstacle in her life. "You're right," she said clearly. "I do have a history with Michael Johnson. 12 years ago, we were in love. He chose his family's company, and I chose medical school. Now life has brought us back together, and yes, there are still feelings involved." She took a steadying breath. "But those feelings have never, not once, compromised my medical judgment. If anything, they've made me more thorough, more careful, because I understand exactly what's at stake." The room fell silent except for the steady beep of monitors. Dr. Chen opened her mouth to speak, but Sophia continued. "Lucy isn't just a case file to me. She's a brave little girl who fights through every obstacle with a smile, who draws magical flowers and believes in healing princesses. And her father isn't just my ex. He's a man who gave up everything to stay by his daughter's side." Her voice strengthened. "If that makes me too emotionally involved, then maybe pediatrics needs more doctors who care enough to tell stories and draw pictures, who remember that healing isn't just about medicine, it's about giving scared children reasons to believe they can get better." Michael moved to stand beside her, his presence solid and sure. "I won't accept another doctor. If you force this issue, I'll transfer Lucy to another hospital entirely, one that understands that compassion isn't a liability." Dr. Matthews studied them for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. "Dr. Chen, I believe we've seen everything we need to." "Sir?" Sophia's confusion must have shown on her face. "The ethics committee needed to verify that you could acknowledge and articulate the complexity of this situation." He nodded toward Lucy. "Your handling of this crisis and your honest assessment of the emotional components involved have demonstrated exactly why you should remain Lucy's physician." Relief made Sophia's knees weak. She sank back onto the edge of Lucy's bed, and the little girl immediately curled into her side. "However," Dr. Chen added, "we'll be implementing additional oversight protocols, regular case reviews, documented treatment decisions, Standard procedure for complex cases. Thank you, Sophia managed, emotion thick in her throat. After the administrators left, Amanda appeared with fresh ice chips for Lucy. You know, she said casually, I might have slightly exaggerated the urgency of that asthma attack to interrupt your meeting. Amanda! Sophia stared at her friend in shock. What? Lucy was having breathing issues. I just emphasized the timing. She winked. Sometimes love needs a little push, Carita. Lucy, already drifting toward sleep, mumbled, like the flower in the story, growing even when it's not supposed to. Michael's hand found Sophia's shoulder, squeezing gently. In that touch was 12 years of history, of choices made and paths diverged, but also something new, something that felt surprisingly like hope. Because sometimes the most healing magic comes not from medicine or machines, but from hearts brave enough to try again. Discharge day dawned bright and clear, Boston's autumn chill carrying the promise of new beginnings. Sophia stood at the nurse's station, reviewing Lucy's final paperwork while trying to ignore the bittersweet ache in her chest. Stop looking, like someone died, Amanda chided, sliding a coffee across the counter. This is good news. Lucy's strong enough to go home. I know. Sophia signed the last form with perhaps more force than necessary. I just don't want to let them go. Amanda's knowing smile made Sophia look away. You know, being Lucy's doctor isn't the only way to be part of their lives. Before Sophia could respond, the elevator doors opened. Michael stepped out, carrying a small pink backpack and looking more relaxed than she'd seen him in weeks. He'd traded his usual suits for dark jeans and a gray cashmere sweater that made his eyes look stormy. Good morning, Dr. Miller. His voice carried that warmth that never failed to make her pulse jump. Ready to set us free? Almost. We need to go over the home care instructions one more time. She gathered her composure along with Lucy's charts. Where's our patient? Getting a royal send-off from the nursing staff. Apparently being the only kid who can make Dr. Chen smile earns you quite a fan club. They walked together toward Lucy's room, their steps falling into natural sync. The board called again this morning. Michael said quietly, They want me back. Full reinstatement, plus a seat for me to name on the executive committee. Sophia's heart stuttered. That's wonderful news. Is it? He stopped walking, turning to face her. Because accepting means diving back into 100-hour weeks, constant travel, barely seeing Lucy except through FaceTime. You built that company from nothing, twice. She forced her voice to remain steady. It's your legacy. Legacy? He laughed softly. You know what Lucy asked me this morning? She wanted to know if princesses can have jobs and families at the same time, if they can save people and still have their own happy endings. The words hit too close to home. Michael, I told her they could. That the bravest princesses are the ones who show us it's possible to have both. His eyes held hers. I was wrong 12 years ago, Sophia. So wrong. I thought I had to choose between love and duty, but watching you these past weeks, seeing how you pour your whole heart into healing while still maintaining your brilliance as a doctor, I realized something. What? The word came out barely above a whisper. That some choices aren't about either or. They're about being brave enough to try for everything. Before she could process his words, Lucy's voice rang out from down the hall. Princess Doctor, look, I'm wearing my special going-home dress. They turned to see Lucy twirling in a pale yellow dress, her blonde hair freshly braided with ribbons. Mr. Whiskers supervised from her tight grip, sporting a tiny Band-Aid to match the one on Lucy's arm. Sophia knelt to her level, swallowing, past the emotion in her throat. You look beautiful, sweetheart. How do your lungs feel? Strong, Lucy demonstrated with an exaggerated deep breath. Like the flower in your story, the one that grew even when it wasn't supposed to. Speaking of flowers, Michael pulled something from Lucy's backpack. We have something for you. Lucy presented, a folded piece of paper with solemn ceremony. Inside was their daffodil drawing, but now it was surrounded by a whole garden of colorful blooms. At the bottom, in Lucy's careful kindergarten writing, "Thank you for making me better. Love, Lucy and Mr. Whiskers." And below that, in Michael's elegant script, "And thank you for helping us believe in magic again." Sophia blinked back tears. "I'll keep this forever." "Forever and ever?" Lucy asked hopefully. "Like in stories?" "Forever and ever," Sophia promised, her voice thick. Amanda appeared with the wheelchair required by hospital policy. "Chariot's ready, Princess, but first I think someone needs a proper goodbye hug." Lucy threw herself into Sophia's arms with such force that they both nearly toppled over. The little girl's arms wound tight around her neck, and Sophia breathed in the sweet baby shampoo smell of her hair. "Will you still tell me stories?" Lucy whispered. "Even when I'm not sick anymore?" The question broke something open in Sophia's chest. She looked up to find Michael watching them, his expression raw with emotion. "I have a better idea," he said softly. "What if we had dinner together tomorrow night? All of us. You can tell us stories and I can make that chicken parmesan you used to love." Sophia's breath caught. "Michael." "Just dinner," he assured her, but his eyes said so much more. "No pressure, no expectations, just don't disappear from our lives again. Please." Lucy's small hands patted Sophia's cheeks. "Say yes, Princess. Doctor, Daddy makes the best chicken ever, and he says you make him smile like you make me smile." A laugh bubbled up through Sophia's tears. "He said that, did he? He tells me lots of things, about how brave you are and smart, and how you always believe in people even when they don't believe in themselves." Lucy's face turned serious. "He looks at you the way the prince looks at the princess in my books." "Out of the mouths of babes," Amanda murmured from somewhere behind them. Sophia stood, still holding Lucy close. The little girl's weight in her arms felt right, felt like something she didn't want to let go of. She looked at Michael, really looked at him, and saw not just the powerful CEO or the dedicated father, but the boy who had loved her completely, the man who had found his way back to her. "Yes," she said quietly. "To dinner, to stories, to trying." The smile that broke across Michael's face was like sunrise. He stepped closer, one hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear, that familiar gesture that had always made her heart race. "That's all I'm asking for," he murmured. "A chance to try." Lucy wiggled happily between them. "Does this mean you'll be my princess doctor forever?" "Oh, sweetie." Sophia pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I'll always be your doctor when you need one, but maybe I can be something else too, if that's okay with you. Like a real princess?" Lucy's eyes lit up. "In our family?" The word family hung in the air, full of possibility. Michael's hand found Sophia's free one, their fingers intertwining naturally. "One step at a time, Princess," he said, but his eyes never left Sophia's face. "Some magic takes time to grow, like daffodils in winter." As they made their way toward the elevator, Lucy chattering from her wheelchair, Amanda pretending not to wipe away tears, Michael's hand warm in hers, Sophia felt something settle in her chest, something that felt like coming home. Because sometimes the bravest thing isn't walking away for love. Sometimes it's staying, fighting, believing that there's room in one heart for both duty and dreams, for healing others and being healed, for professional dedication and personal joy. Sometimes the truest magic is simply being brave enough to try. 3 months later, snow dusted Boston Common like powdered sugar, transforming the city into a winter wonderland. Sophia stood at her kitchen window, watching fat flakes drift past the glass while the rich aroma of coffee filled her apartment. "You're doing it again," Amanda called from the couch, where she sat surrounded by bridal magazines. "That little smile that says you're thinking about them." Sophia touched her lips, realizing she was indeed smiling. I'm just happy. Disgustingly happy, Amanda corrected, but her tone was warm. Now come help me pick centerpieces for your wedding. I didn't agree to be maid of honor just to do all the work myself. The diamond ring on Sophia's left hand caught the morning light as she moved to join her friend. The proposal had come just last week. Michael down on one knee in the hospital garden where Lucy had her final follow-up appointment. Their daughter, because that's what Lucy had become in her heart, sprinkling paper flower petals she'd made herself. Still can't believe you said yes in front of the entire pediatric staff, Amanda teased. Still can't believe you all managed to keep it a secret. Sophia picked up a magazine, remembering how she'd turned the corner to find not just Michael and Lucy, but her entire medical team gathered around the garden's winter bare flower beds. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Emergency at Lucy's school. Don't panic, just a last-minute costume crisis for the winter play. Apparently, being a magical healing princess requires very specific accessories. A photo followed. Lucy in a white dress remarkably similar to Sophia's doctor's coat, complete with a toy stethoscope and a crown made of paper daffodils. The determination on her face as she directed Michael's attempts at costume adjustment was pure comedy gold. Need backup? Sophia texted back, already knowing the answer. Please. She says I'm doing the flowers all wrong. Direct quote. Daddy, Princess Doctor knows how they're supposed to look. Go, Amanda waved her off. Save your family from their craft emergency, I'll handle the centerpieces. You sure? Mi amor, I've watched you build this happiness piece by piece. The magazines can wait. 20 minutes later, Sophia pulled up to Lucy's elementary school, where she found Michael in the auditorium, surrounded by craft supplies and looking adorably out of his depth. His cashmere sweater was dusted with glitter, and somehow he'd gotten paint in his hair. My heroes. Lucy launched herself into Sophia's arms. Daddy doesn't understand about the magic flowers. They have to be perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. Sweetheart, Sophia reminded her gently. But that's what makes it special. She sat cross-legged on the auditorium floor, uncaring about her designer slacks, and pulled Lucy into her lap. Together they began reshaping the paper daffodils, while Michael watched them with naked adoration. You know, he said softly, when the board offered me my job back, I almost said yes. Sophia's hand stilled on the flowers. They hadn't talked much about his decision to walk away from the company permanently, to instead start a smaller consulting firm that let him set his own hours and work primarily from home. What changed your mind, she asked, though she suspected she knew. This. He gestured to them, to the scattered craft supplies and Lucy's excited chatter about her upcoming performance. Watching you balance your career with truly being present, it made me realize I didn't want to just provide for my family. I wanted to be part of it. Lucy looked up from her flowers. Is that why you're home for breakfast now, and come to all my shows? That's exactly why, Princess. Michael's voice roughened. Because some things are more important than being the boss of a big company. Like love? Lucy asked with a child's directness. Like love, Sophia confirmed, meeting Michael's eyes over their daughter's head. And family. And believing in magic. And second chances, Lucy added, surprising them both. Michael moved to join them on the floor, uncaring about his expensive jeans. Where did you hear about second chances? Nurse Amanda told me. She said you and Princess Doctor needed one, and that's why you found each other again. Lucy's small fingers traced the paper petals. Like the flower in the story, it didn't bloom right the first time, but it didn't give up. Sophia's throat tightened with emotion. Trust their precocious 5-year-old to cut straight to the heart of things. You know what else Amanda told me? Lucy continued, her face serious. She said sometimes the best families aren't the ones you're born with, but the ones you choose. Like how I chose you to be my new mommy. The words, so simply stated, brought tears to Sophia's eyes. She and Lucy had been dancing around the mom, word for weeks ever since the engagement. They'd agreed to let Lucy set the pace, to never pressure her about Catherine's memory. Are you sure that's what you want, sweetheart? Sophia asked carefully. It's okay if you're not ready. Lucy turned in her lap, small hands framing Sophia's face the way she often did when she had something important to say. I asked Daddy if it was okay to have two mommies. One in heaven watching over me and one here to hug me and tell me stories and make me better when I'm sick. Michael's hand found Sophia's, squeezing gently. And I told you what? That love multiplies. Lucy recited, it doesn't divide. That Mommy Catherine would be happy I found another mommy to love me while she watches from the stars. Sophia pulled Lucy close, not bothering to hide her tears. I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that love, princess. You already do, Michael murmured, wrapping his arms around them both. Every day, every moment you show us what love really means. They sat there on the auditorium floor, surrounded by paper flowers and craft supplies, holding on to each other, like the family they'd become. Through the high windows, snow continued to fall, transforming the world outside into something magical. Oh! Lucy suddenly squirmed free. We have to hurry. The play starts soon, and my flowers aren't finished. As they resumed their crafting, Sophia caught Michael watching her with that soft expression that still made her heart race. What? Just thinking about how far we've come. The scared 19-year-old girl who thought she had to choose between love and dreams. The fool who let her go because he thought he was protecting her. And now, she prompted, now we know better. He leaned in, kissing her softly. Now we know that the biggest dreams make room for love. And the truest love makes room for dreams. Daddy, Lucy protested, less kissing, more flowers. They laughed, returning their attention to the paper daffodils. But as Lucy practiced her lines about being a healing princess who helped sick children believe in magic, Sophia felt the truth of Michael's words deep in her soul. Because sometimes the hardest choices aren't between love and duty, between personal happiness and professional success. Sometimes the hardest choice is simply believing you deserve both. Believing that magic can bloom in winter, that second chances come disguised as sick little girls with brave hearts, that love multiplies in ways you never expected. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to build a life that holds all of it, the medicine and the magic, the healing and the hope, the family you choose and the dreams you never stopped chasing. A life where paper daffodils are just as precious as real ones, where fairy tales come true in hospital rooms, and where happy endings aren't endings at all. They're just beautiful beginnings in disguise. 1 year later, spring sunlight streamed through the windows of Boston Children's Hospital, turning the pediatric ward's corridors into ribbons of gold. Dr. Sophia Miller Johnson paused at her favorite spot, the wall outside her office where a framed drawing of a daffodil hung beside her medical credentials. Ready for today's special guest? Amanda appeared beside her, coffee in hand. Is she nervous? Please, that child has more confidence than half our board of directors. They turned at the sound of excited chatter approaching. Lucy, now 6.5, walked down the hall in a miniature white coat custom-made for career day, her blonde hair braided elegantly and a real stethoscope, a gift from the pediatric staff, around her neck. Michael followed, carrying a box of cupcakes and wearing the proud smile that hadn't left his face since their wedding 6 months ago. Mom, Lucy called out, hurrying to hug Sophia. Did you see? I look just like you. Even more beautiful, Sophia answered, straightening Lucy's small name badge that read, Dr. Lucy Johnson, Junior Healer in Training. Think she's ready to share her story with the other kids? Michael asked, greeting his wife with a quick kiss. Lucy had begged to be part of the hospital's program for young patients, wanting to tell other sick children how she'd gotten better, how believing in magic and trusting their doctors could help heal even the scariest illnesses. I practiced all week, Lucy assured them, clutching her constant companion, Mr. Whiskers, who now sported his own tiny white coat. I'm going to tell them about how you were my princess doctor, and how sometimes the best medicine is believing in happy endings. Sophia felt Michael's arm slip around her waist as they watched their daughter greet the young patients gathered in the playroom. The past year had brought so many changes. Their wedding in the hospital garden where he'd proposed, Lucy's official adoption papers coming through, Michael's consulting firm taking off in a way that let him be home every night for family dinner. She's going to be an amazing doctor someday, Michael murmured. Or whatever else she dreams of being, Sophia replied, thinking of all the possibilities stretching before their daughter. As long as she keeps believing in magic, like her mother taught her. He squeezed her hand. Both of them. In the playroom, Lucy had begun her story. Once upon a time, there was a very sick little girl who was scared of hospitals, until she met a doctor who knew that sometimes the strongest medicine is love. Sophia leaned into her husband's embrace, watching their daughter spread hope like flower petals. Outside, real daffodils bloomed in the hospital garden, but the most magical flowers were still the paper ones. Precious reminders that sometimes the most powerful healing comes from believing in second chances, in love that multiplies, and in the kind of magic that turns strangers into family and fairy tales into forever. Because true magic, like true love, never really ends. It just keeps blooming season after season, in all the hearts brave enough to believe. If you had to choose between professional success and true love as Michael did in the past, what would your decision be? And more importantly, do you really think we need to choose between the two, or as Sophia demonstrated, is it possible to have both when we find the right balance? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to choose between career and relationship? Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.